Well, California's pension plan funding has a $500 billion, yes, $500 billion with a T, dollar shortfall. So in San Jose and San Diego today, they're voting on making cuts to these pension benefits. Will other states follow suit? Lou Dobbs is here with his take. Lou, and other states better follow suit, because once these pension funds are tapped out, that's it. People better be willing to compromise at the very least, no?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and that's exactly what's happening. As you know, in San Jose, California today, it is close to what is happening in San Diego. There, the issue is really moving from defined benefit programs, pension funds, to 401ks for public employees there. Either way, it's crystal clear to all who will open their eyes that these enormous pensions and retirement benefits and health care benefits that are going to public employees in this country, government employees, outperform, are vastly superior to anything that's happening at large in the private economy, private sector employees. It is, the president wants a very, he says, a level playing field, a fair system. That is anything but fair.
Why don't people who receive public pensions seem to understand this? Why are they so willing to fight tooth and nail to preserve it? Because
it's theirs, and it's also been promised to them. And it's the same reason that people who are laid off in the private sector have such horrible emotional reaction to what is happening. It is, they think, it is their fortune, their destiny, and can't, you know, and when they are confronted with the fact they have to adapt, it's not pleasant, and no one expects it to be, and no one expects this compromise to be pleasant either. But the public sector, like the private, is not immune to the necessity of change. We've got $3 trillion in unfunded liabilities in this country. A new contract has to be drawn.
Let's broaden it out and talk about the overall debt crisis. I'm sure you saw the Congressional Budget Office figures this morning, projecting 70%, our debt is 70% of GDP, are headed in that direction. Right. I mean, it's astronomical, and I really don't think people are able to grasp the major disaster that this is.
Last night on my broadcast, I wrote out $3 trillion for unfunded liabilities, and I wrote it out 000. I had to stare at those numbers
to count up.
To figure out, now, did I really write a sufficient number of zeros? Turns out I got lucky and did. But it's an incomprehensible amount of debt that we're talking about. When we move from $3 trillion in unfunded liabilities, at least by whichever estimate you use, $57 trillion in unfunded liabilities from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, some numbers put that as high as $110 trillion. $16 trillion in national debt. These numbers are swamping us. And the Congressional Budget Office projections have us at 200% of GDP in debt. And we just simply can't sustain it. We're talking about destroying the greatest free enterprise capitalist economy in history, only because we have leaders in Washington, D.C. who refuse to understand they're not half as smart as the folks who led this country for the previous 200 years.
And quickly, I'll just throw out there, the debt downgrade last summer did nothing to warn people. Of course, money kept flooding into U.S. markets. I mean, what's it going to take?
In fairness, it was a silly downgrade, because it said nothing but, you know, you've got problems. We knew that. For a ratings agency to suddenly wake up and try to get in the door to have, you know, a say in this is absurd. It's like with the United Kingdom, that downgrade, taking it down to a negative outlook and reducing their credit rating by a minus is, you know, it's sort of silly after the one of those barn door closings. Yeah.
Lou Dobbs, it is always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be with you, Laura.
Thanks again. Don't forget, you can watch Lou every day at this time. He interrupts his lunch break for us. And of course, at 7 p.m. tonight, you can catch Lou speaking with Juan Williams about the Wisconsin recall vote. Be curious to see how that outcome turns out.